Good evening, this is Northants In or Out. I'm Caitlin Rossetti.
And I'm Ollie Conopo.
Tonight we are going to discuss the question on everyone's lips. Should Britain leave or remain as part of the European Union?
Since 1974, the UK has been a part of the EU, along with 27 other countries. On the 23rd of June, we will vote to either leave or remain as a part of the European Union. There are 751 members of the European Parliament, of which 73 are from the United Kingdom. Northampton South MP David McIntosh, along with Michael Ellis, want to remain a part of the EU, while Andrea Leadsom, MP for Northamptonshire South, wants to leave. It looks like there's a divide through the county, through the north and the south. Many people are unaware that notable countries like Denmark, Norway and Switzerland are not in the EU. Could the UK be the next on the list? That's for you to decide.
We take a look at how the upcoming vote could impact Northamptonshire. Our reporters have been out and about, focusing on issues that will affect you. Our reporter Agnieszka Peter looks at the advantages of remaining as part of the EU.
For more than 40 years there has been debate about Britain's role within the European Union. There are many reasons why pro-Europeans believe Britain is stronger as part of a group rather than on its own. Many business bosses agree that leaving the EU would threaten jobs and put the country's economy at risk.
With the EU referendum only 4 months away, one issue becomes increasingly important here in Northampton. The decision to remain or leave will have a huge impact on local migrants. Here, at the Greencore factory, the majority of the employees come from all over Europe. If Britain decides to leave, all these jobs could be at risk.
Liberal Democrats councillor in Northampton Dennis Meredith believes that UK would be better off staying in the EU.
Immigration issue, free trade movement, I think is good for this country because I know and I work, and a lot of my constituents are Polish, different nationalities which come from Europe, and they all contribute and they all go to work and they work very hard, and a lot of the people who come over, they buy their houses. I mean in the area where I live, I know a lot of Polish people have settled here, take part in the local schools, learning the English language.
EU supporters believe the UK's status in the world would be damaged by leaving and that the country would be more secure as part of the European Union. The referendum will be held on the 23rd of June this year, with the decision in the hands of the British public.
You guys have been sharing your thoughts and opinions on our Facebook and Twitter pages. Freeman on Twitter says out, end the subservience to unelected foreign bodies. The EU is outdated, the empire will fall.
Emily Farmer said, stay in the EU. Jobs, trade, freedom to work, study abroad, easy travel, peace and democracy. Tom Harrison has said leave. Return the democracy to a national government. Trade with the world and the EU. Control borders and free small businesses from EU regulation.
On our Facebook page, a Northampton student from Gibraltar is voting to stay. He said if the UK leave the EU, Spain will close their borders the next day, meaning 9,000 people will lose their jobs.
Reporter Prina Visavadia has been to speak to the UKIP chairman about leaving the EU.
In or out? The greatest uncertainty associated with leaving the EU is that no country has done it before. Britain could be the first.
There's no reason to suggest why, if Britain left the European Union, we can't negotiate our own new trade deal to have a free trade with Europe. And we have to remember there's a £60 billion trade deficit from Britain to the EU, so it's in their interest to keep an open border, to trade and keep a single market with Britain. We're the 6th largest economy in the world. We have the strongest diplomatic links with the Commonwealth in the world. So no one can convince me that being the 6th biggest economy, that we can't negotiate our own trade deals, go to China, go to India, go to Brazil, go to the United States and continue to trade with the EU and be economic and prosper economically.
How would Northampton benefit if Britain left the EU?
Well, I think Northampton benefit firstly because we'd have control of our own borders. We'd have control of the amount of people that were coming to Britain. At the moment, we're running at net 330,000 people a year, and that is having an effect across the country, but certainly in towns like Northampton. We need to build new hospitals, we need to build new schools for all these people. There are expected 90,000 more people coming to Northampton over the next 5 years. We don't have the schools, we don't have the hospitals. By withdrawing from the European Union, we can save 20 billion a year and we can build those hospitals, build those schools. In fact, it was a UKIP pledge in our local manifesto to build a new hospital for Northampton if elected.
For the next part of our programme, we have two guests in the studio.
We are joined by Derek Clark, a former Northampton East MEP and is now part of the Leave EU campaign, and Tony Clark, who wants to stay in the EU from Northampton's Green Party. So let's start with you, Derek. Why do you think leaving the EU would benefit Northampton?
Not so much Northampton, but the whole country. Because what we're doing by being a member of the EU, it was surrendering our sovereignty, and that means rules and regulations, money, coming and going, everything to do with the country has now been influenced and indeed regulated in many cases by the EU, and that regulation doesn't so much come from the elected MEPs, such as I once was, but from the Commission, who are people who are not elected by anyone to do anything of that nature at all, as opposed to our own Parliament, where your members of Parliament, as Tony I know once was, were elected by the people. How much they decide to listen to their members of the constituency and carry out what they want, and how much they decide to do it for themselves, as it were, or along party lines is another matter. But they are representative of the people, the Commission, who order the goings and comings of the EU, and therefore of you, are not elected by anyone.
Okay, and Tony, what's your position on this?
Well, I think, the whole referendum is a falsehood. We can no more leave Europe than we can leave planet Earth. And I think, when Derek talks about regulations and talks about how Britain could exist outside of the EU, even if we voted to leave, we'd still be at the table the next day discussing how we're going to trade, how we're going to put in place new regulations to replace the old. So for me, it's about having a positive relationship with your international neighbours and about making sure that Britain benefits from that relationship. And you can't do that from the outside. Denmark's found that out to its cost. Denmark trades with Europe the same way as we do, but they find that they still have to take note of all the regulations, but they don't have a say in how they're set.
So, Derek, there's been a lot of attention surrounding both jobs in the EU and the effect that the EU has on immigration. How will leaving the EU have an effect on this and an effect on the British people?
Let's take jobs first of all. It's widely said in many quarters that we'll lose 3.7 million jobs or something like that if we leave the EU. That's scare and it's nonsense, because those jobs depend upon trade with the EU, and they're not going to stop trading with us. We buy from them something like £52 million worth of stuff every year, or £1 billion worth, and we sell to them a lot less, which means we are their best customers.
There will be job losses because those particularly major companies who want to trade within Europe will find it easier to have their headquarters and their manufacturing bases within the EU, where there's less regulation because there's a relationship already. If they continue to be based in the UK and there's a different relationship, then that's more red tape, more bureaucracy for them to overcome. And it's not a scare story, because quite a lot of those companies have said that they would seriously have to look at moving their manufacturing base from the UK into the European Union if we weren't a member.
So that's both sides of the stay or leave debate. Derek, Tony, thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, thank you. The referendum will take place on the 23rd of June. To have your say, make sure you are registered to vote by the 7th of June.
There are 95 places to vote in Northampton. You can register online and find your local polling station at www.gov.uk. That's all we have time for today. We hope your decision has been made easier. It's a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.